Steve, I'm an alcoholic. Well, it's, you guys look way too good to be in here. This is really, I think we better have a couple of questions to make sure that I'm in the right mood, right? So I'll tell you this story. In my freshman year in college, I just started drinking. And one of my buddies says, well, this was in North Dakota. He said, let's go over to Wisconsin Dells in Wisconsin. I said, okay, let's go. So of course we drank the whole way there. And Wisconsin Dells is a recreational area, all kinds of lakes and all kinds of cool stuff going on, right? And there'll be a question at the end of this, so pay attention. Teacher, coach. Right? So we get to the lake where we're meeting his brother-in-law. So from about right here to the back wall, it's the lake, and then out there's this big pontoon, and everybody's out there drinking and jumping off and doing all that stuff, And I'm on the shore with my buddy. My buddy's a swimmer. He swims right out there. I am not a swimmer. I am the guy you find at the bottom of the lake. So I start swimming out, and of course, there's every chance in the world that I'm absolutely drunk. I get part of the way out there, and I start going down. And oh God, cramp. So I fight my way back up. I'm floundering around, going, oh God, now I'm out of breath. And I'm cramping up. Down again. I'm down there going, well, you better pull it together because this is not going well. So I work my way back up to the top, and I'm doing the dead fish roll kind of thing. And this guy's brother-in-law sees me, he's out on the thing, he sees me, he jumps in, he's a strong swimmer. He comes over, he saved my life, pulls me back to shore, and props me up against a tree, and I just totally wrecked. I'm exhausted. I did what we all do, I threw up, and just, oh my God. Now, the test. What did I learn from that? Come on, you guys are alcoholics. You should know the answer to this.
Drink more.
What was that? No more swimming. That's it. That stuff will kill you. And to this day, we do not go swimming. My extent of swimming is taking a stick and throwing it for my dog into the water. He can get it. If he goes down, he's on his own. That's just the way this is going to go. So anyway, yeah. Okay, you guys might be a little alcoholic. It's probably hard to tell. Hey, Matt, how are you? Also wanted to do the alcoholic test, or just actually a statement. And the statement is that there's a bunch of guys in here, a little bit higher ratio of guys to girls. And I want to tell you something after living over 70 years and being sober for over 34 years. I just want to tell you something you may already know: women are smarter than men.
Oh.
See, Chris had a couple girlfriends, so and it's true. It's true. They know everything about us, and we're such slow learners. Guys are just incredibly slow learners. So today is so last week, Friday, I think it was, Ann is driving, and I'm just coming off of kidney stones, so I'm in the passenger seat, and my wife Ann, honey, shake your head or something. Okay, yeah. No, not that finger. So anyway, we're pulling up this hill, the light's red, and my 100-pound soul wife runs it and turns right And I look in the mirror, and here it comes. Here it comes. And I'm going, oh. So she pulls over, and I go to the glove compartment, because I know what's coming, right? And the window goes down, the cop comes up, Ann's driving. He looks at Ann, goes, listen, you need to slow down. And Ann goes, the IBAT, you guys all know the IBAT. You can go this time, but let's just be more careful. And I thought, what a commentary on society. If it would have been me or one of you guys up against the roof. You shake it down, we're frisking you, you may get 6 months out of this. So I just learned I had no chance. It's just funny. We're just a funny group. So I just really hope that you're excited about your sobriety and the opportunities that are now available to you, like the reading. I love having the freedom to choose what I'm going to do with today. I really like that. I enjoy it. Do I get moody and stuff? Well, sure. Yeah, that happens. I think it's important that we look back at our lives and see how we got here. And it sounds kind of weird, but if you look at it, I'll just give you a couple of quick examples of, and this is, by the way, I have to say this thing, all this stuff comes out of me. Some of it's not even in the book. Some of it's hidden behind a staple. I don't know where it comes from. It's just going to come out. So if I say something that really bothers you, just pray about it. You'll be fine. I was talking to one of the guys before the meeting, and tonight I wanted to dedicate my time here to some of my friends that aren't here, and maybe tell you just a touch about each one of them. These are guys that had a choice, like we all have a choice. Am I going to work the program? Am I going to do this program? Am I going to be willing to do the stuff that's going on? Right? So these are 5 distinctive stories, and they're short. So the first story is a guy that worked for me and was also in AA, a guy named Mike Hansen, who some of you know. And we have a men's meeting on Saturday mornings down in Draper. And Mike was struggling. This is several years ago now. He was really struggling, and I went up to him because he worked part-time for me too. Went up to him and said, Mike, why don't we sit down and we'll go through some step work and so forth, and you can begin your program of recovery other than just going to meetings. And one of my other buddies, Marty, came up, and we literally begged this guy, because we could tell, I've shaved that face. I bet every one of you guys have shaved that face. That's terrifying. And Mike he wouldn't do it. And Mike was gone about 3 days later. So he made the ultimate sacrifice. The second guy is a guy named Jim Irvine. And Jim, again, been around a little bit, you may ever know, is a very substantial person, about 6'2" or 3", and probably 280, and not fat at all. Same kind of a thing. Hey, Jim, come on, this isn't that hard. Just be willing to consider that it might work and make your life better and make the lives of the people around you better. And he said, I can't do it. I said, come on. So a couple guys, we had him in the parking lot again. I said, hey, are you willing or not? And he said, no, I'm not. Well, same story 3 or 4 days later, Jim's gone. They have a viewing, and I'm in line for the viewing, and he was a stepson to this guy, the father, and I started talking to his father, and I said, well, what are your thoughts about this whole thing? And he looked right at me and he said something that had just resonated with me. He said he had a tortured soul. A tortured soul. Not an upset soul, not an uneasy soul. He had a tortured soul. And his way out was substance to get away from that. The third guy is a good friend of mine, Pete Eldridge. Pete Eldridge, we were really close. And he was a dentist here in town. And he got into some trouble. And same kind of thing. I was calling him and calling him and calling him and said, Pete, I'll sit down with you. We'll just walk ourselves through the book. No pressure, no nothing. We don't have to talk about God. We don't have to talk about any of that. So just be willing, right? So he said, yeah, I don't know. So the next morning, around 10 a.m., I had this feeling that I should call him, which I did. And no answer, left the voicemail. Later that afternoon, his wife called me and said, Pete died this morning. And I said, well, what happened? She said, well, it was about 10 o'clock and he hung himself in the garage. But Pete was totally a great guy, wonderful soul, but had the demons, had the voices, and they came after him and they took him down. So the next, I've got 2 guys to go yet, and they're both a little harder. First guy was a very close friend of mine, and he decided that there was stuff more important than recovery, in particular a new wife and some financial stuff and so forth. His name was Vince Simmons, and Vince was in Draper, and funny guy, hilariously funny guy. And we had the same conversation. He said, Vince, why don't we at least try and go through some of this stuff? Let's go through it and see how you do, and see if you like it, see if it's for you. And Vince has been trying to get sober for, I don't know, maybe 15 years or so. And he hung around guys that were sober, but, he liked to smoke a little dope, so that's what he did. And then, of course, I had a conversation with him early in the week, and he wanted to borrow some money because he'd gotten into some financial trouble when he moved to Florida. And the position I have about borrowing money in AA, no matter who it is I'll love you to death, but no money. Because I've done that, been there, didn't work. Well, okay, so a few days later, phone rings. It's his ex-wife, and Vince was in Florida and had a little bit too much to drink and plowed his car into a pole and died. And it's just stunning. It's just stunning to me. And a lot of times we forget about this, and I'll talk about it again here in a minute, but we forget the power of the disease. Because it just can make you do anything. Anything. My last guy that I'm dedicating this to this evening is a guy named Tony Galvis. Tony, young man, great job, electrician job, high-paying job, and I'm sponsoring him. And we're talking on a Tuesday, and I said, well, how's it going? He said, I am on fire, I love this program. And I said, well, okay. I said, that's great. Which step are you on? And blah, 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 we had a conversation. And he said, the only thing I have is I'm lonely. I'm just lonely. And he's a nice looking kid, and Eric talked to me earlier about a men's retreat that we have in September. And that was the last time that, the last one that Tony went to, and he and I went fishing together. And we just had a great time. So anyway, back to, we finish up on our Tuesday, and my phone rings on Friday. And it was one of our other buddies in AA called to tell me that Tony took a hot shot, and he was dead with, the 3 kids and the mom. And, they were all, he left them behind. And away you go. So I look at this, and sometimes, and I tell people this all the time, and I get a funny look sometimes, but I think if you look at the experiences that I have in AA, and the experience that you have in AA, and look what the voices of alcoholism have done to your life and to my life. Look what it's made me do, because I didn't have anywhere to go. And that's why I selected this reading tonight. It talks about there being a substitute. If you're going to quit drinking, you better have a place to go. Otherwise, it's horrible, it's terrible. So, again, I think it's important to know where you come from. And how did I get to this point, right? So I go back to growing up in North Dakota, right? And I was the youngest of 3 kids, older sister and then middle brother. And it was brutal. We were broke. And I'm glad you're all sitting down. We did not have a TV. No TV. No radio. Just that. It was very difficult. Both parents are working. Mom had a 7th grade. Sorry, Mom. Mom had a 7th grade education. Dad had an 8th grade education. And was off to World War II, right? And blah, 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 blah. So anyway, here's what happened when, this is how my head works when you have no direction, because everybody's working and nobody's watching me, which is not good. So I began to build this incredible armor of selfishness. And the kids in the neighborhood, it was a rough neighborhood, I'm not going to lie to you. Every other word was an F-bomb, and a lot of people, in Cub Scouts, the biggest thing you could have was a switchblade. So, a little different than the scouting program here. So, we just went, oh man, what's going on here? And it got worse, and it got worse, and it got worse. And then we were doing things to entertain ourselves that were really counterproductive, right? So, Mom and Dad would go to work, and my sister, who was, I'll go talk about that later, great person. My brother and I decided that this is really boring. It's kind of cold outside, and we both had received squirt guns for some present or something. So we had these little hand squirt guns like this. And we're sitting in the kitchen. I look across the room. There's a parakeet cage with a parakeet. and we're loaded. So you let the parakeet out of the cage, kind of rattle him a little bit. He flies out, and then you pick him off. Like this. We did probably 2-3 hours worth of that, chasing around the drapes and doing off. And when Mom comes home from work, said, God, the parakeet's never been this quiet. Well, we don't know. That's lie through your teeth. That's one of the things you have to learn, right? Don't lie about it. And it was crazy. It was just crazy. So my brother and I were on the same train into this disease, and we just didn't know it. However, it didn't help that my sister was a straight A student, had majorette for the drum corps thing, and just wouldn't say if she had a mouthful. She wouldn't say it. And just really made it hard on my brother and I because we weren't getting straight A's. And so anyway, we go along and she starts dating. She starts dating because she's a little older. And my brother and I, of course, we have to fix this because this is not acceptable. So we found an old Daisy BB gun, and we'd sit upstairs, and the date would come home and drop her off, and then he'd start walking away from the house. We'd slide the window up a little bit. What the? 2 or 3 times with that, and finally my sister figured it out. And then we were in trouble. But we didn't. Both parents were working. What were we going to do? You know? Handcuff us in the basement? I don't know. Maybe. But anyway, it went that way. It gets better. This is actually going somewhere. Oh my God. So my brother and I are busy playing sports, and he goes away to college. And I'm approaching the end of high school, have not had a drink. Good boy, because I was always doing sports, and nothing really serious about girls except, hey, a dancer in there or nothing. That was it. So finally, somehow I scrabbled my way through high school and on into college. And I go to my first collegiate kegger. Yeah, I heard an uh-oh. That was I wish uh-oh would have been great. Uh-oh would have been a big step up from where I was. So I'm at the kegger with a bunch of fraternity guys that were trying to rush me into their fraternity. And I had a few drinks. I felt pretty good, and there were girls, of course, and I'm talking to the girls because now I can talk to girls because I feel okay. And so anyway, the bottom line is I had a big night. I got. What are you laughing at?
I just the big
So anyway, had a big night. And so here's where it gets a little testy. 5 days later, I became a daily drinker for 20 years. Whoops, what happened there? I was the guy that couldn't get through the day without a drink. Absolutely stunningly, to me, amazing, since I didn't even like the smell of it or anything else. But I liked the effect of it. So I went into that abyss, as we call it. And my sister didn't help. She married a minister. And more on that later. It gets better. And my brother was arrested for driving his car through the front door of a sorority house. And my dad saying to me, don't you ever do that. So I did exactly what he said. I didn't do that because I couldn't buy a car. I had no money. So It was crazy. So I'm on this road here where I got the minister and his wife, and my brother, who is exactly like I am, and I'm just watching the progression and going, oh, I could do that, I could do that, I could do that. And I did that, and I did that, and I did that, and pretty soon you go, oh my God, where is this going? Well, here's where I went. Probably a year and a half later, 2 years probably, I'm going with this girl that I had met in junior high and dated in high school. And we were kind of serious about it. And we're on a date, and she said, well, here's the deal for me. You're either going to marry me or I'm leaving. Okay. Well, of course, I'm drunk. Sounded great to me. Said, yeah, let's get married. So that was the, I love that girl to death. She's one of my wife's friends. Better friend than I am, I'm sure. But, so we go through the thing, and the day comes when we're going to get married. So we're going to get married at her house. Her husband's, or her dad is this big doctor person and all kinds of stuff. And he said, why don't you come over in the morning, like at 6:30 or so? Because that's the time, we're rolling around. I said, yeah, great. So at 6:30 in the morning, on the day I was getting married, we started drinking wild turkey. And the wedding was at 1, and I can't tell you very much about the wedding, but I can tell you about the reception and the next part. So I am blasted, no question about it. We've invited all of our friends. There's probably, 300 people there. I mean, it's cold outside, so people are wearing these big heavy coats and all that kind of crap. So, the things we do. Anyway, I ran into an old girlfriend there, and this is my wedding day. I'm now married. And we go into the coat room and hang up a few coats. My wedding day. Her wedding day. So sorry for her. And so anyway, we hang around, everybody's drinking and stuff like that. And as the evening comes to a close, we go to our room, and it's only natural people would think, hey, what's I was so drunk I passed out. She ordered pizza. That was the start of our marriage. And the next day, we were on our way 200 miles away from our hometown to start up a new job that she had gotten. And of course, I'm driving, and we have a pickup truck and a U-Haul. And we're driving down the interstate in North Dakota. The wind is blowing like I think it was blowing. Something was blowing. Anyway, flipped it over, rolled it into the ditch. This is my first day of marriage. And so we had to get everything squared away and get back out and everything. And when we got to the town we were actually going to live in, she had her job secured, and I didn't have a job. So I went to a buddy of mine from the hometown, and he had the perfect job. He was the bar manager at a hotel, and he needed help. Well, I might be thick, but I'm not that dumb. I can go right in there and get this job. And I did that, and I stole from this guy religiously, and he didn't care until he found out. So I lost that job, and then away we go. Wow, so much drinking, so little spirituality or anything else. It was just amazing. my sister called me and said their daughter had terminal cancer, early teens. And I did what we do when we get news when we're drinking. I drank some more, and some more, and some more. And was of no support to my sister or her husband, or the daughter, or the two brothers, my nephews. Didn't care, didn't really have a feeling about it other than to begin swearing adamantly at this God. I had no idea who that was, right? So, Angela passed away, and it was brutal, absolutely incredibly brutal. About that time I got transferred, and never stopped drinking, just kept doing that. And my wife, who somehow was still with me, I have no idea how she's still with me. She was pregnant with our first girl. Great, you know. So this is how out of touch things got, right? So my wife is pregnant. She has this little baby girl, and I'm there. You know, I'm there to watch the baby be born. And then I'm gone for 2 weeks. Couldn't tell you much about half of that, because it was all about getting drunk. And in the meantime, my wife had a problem with it. She was in the hospital, having her died, and I'm out, you know, doing what we do. Horrible thing. Well, as life would have it on this journey, we had a second child, and she's great. Her and I, we were buddies, man. We were hanging out, we were doing everything. Here's the problem: I was drinking, and drinking got really bad. And this is what happened. I came home, and my wife, who had given me the ultimatum about getting married, said, "You need to quit drinking, or we're leaving." I looked her right in the eye and I said, "We'll see you." And then I went and got drunk. She called my parents. My parents drove into, Castro, Wyoming. They drove into Castro, Wyoming and loaded up my wife and the 2 kids into this U-Haul thing. And they're getting ready to drive away. And my little girl jumps out of the U-Haul and runs over and wraps herself around my leg. And I said, "Well, what are you doing?" And she looked right up at me and she said, "I'm wishing." And to show you the power of the disease, I reached down and I unwrapped her off my leg, picked her up and put her in the U-Haul, and they drove away. That's what power of alcoholism does. Amazing. Amazing. So, I'd had enough. And my company agreed to put me in treatment. And they did in Castro, Wyoming. And they flew a guy in from our company to talk to me. And in the meantime, I had met with a counselor. And he said, "Well, you need to make amends to this guy and his company." And I said, "No, I don't know." And he said, "Well, you don't have any choice, you gotta do it." So I met with this guy, Major Stephen Argabright, ex-Vietnam guy, brilliant person. And he and I were in the car, and I said, "I need to speak with you. Because now I'm sober like a few days." Totally serious. Yeah, I'm sober a few days, and I said, over the past few years, I've embezzled quite a bit of money from your company. And he said, well, how much did you embezzle? And I said, well, as far as I can figure, it's between $50,000 and $75,000. And this guy looked at me and he said, let me ask you something. I said, yeah. He said, are you done drinking? I said, yeah. I am right now. And he said, are you ready to go to work for our company again? And I said, I am. I'll do that. And they forgave the entire investment amount. And they paid for my treatment. And so I'm in treatment and I'm going to this thing and I'm getting out after the 30-day rinse. And I should tell you that I did a fifth step in treatment with a Catholic priest. And I was one of us. And the priest started to talk, and I looked right at him and I said, F you. You have no idea what's going on, do you? He said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, you don't drink, you don't chase girls, you're not doing anything that you shouldn't do. He said, why would I possibly listen to you? And I got to stay an extra week in treatment, just FYI. Small-minded people. Anyway, so anyway, I got out of treatment, I went back and I thought, well, this is going to be okay, right? Everything's going to be fine. And it wasn't. And here's why it wasn't. Out of the cocoon of treatment, not able to drink, and my head has now gone into high gear. And I think there's little kids here, so I won't use the words, but it wasn't telling me what a good guy I was. It wasn't telling me that there wasn't anything wrong. It wasn't telling me really anything positive at all, just beating the crap out of me. So, fortunately, one of the guys at the treatment center had a buddy in AA, and he lined me up with a guy in AA. And he said, yeah, we're going to a meeting. And I have no idea what time it is. My bad.
It's 8:37.
8:30. Okay. I won't torture you much longer. So he lines me up with Phil. And Phil's crazy. I could talk about Phil for the next 2 days and we wouldn't even be out of Phil stories. So I'm talking to Phil. I said, Phil, I'm absolutely crazy. He went, yeah, I know, that's why you're here. So we start going to meetings in Casper, Wyoming. And you know how you hear that your meetings aren't like the meetings that I'm used to? Well, these meetings were like anything that anybody's ever used to. We'd meet in this little house, and all these guys would come in off the oil field and just raw. And just to give you an example, I didn't even drink coffee when I got into recovery. And these guys, after the meeting, if you tried to walk away, you're not doing that. You're going to coffee. So then you go to coffee and you drink coffee for 4 hours and then you expect to go to sleep, which isn't going to happen. So my head's really doing this thing. I'm going, oh my God, this is really horrible. So I used to laugh at Phil so hard. Oh God, it was amazing. Anyway, a little bit longer into just being sober. I'm driving down the road outside of Casper, Wyoming on a secondary road, and I am absolutely terrified. I don't mean I'm kind of scared. I mean I'm terrified. I have no idea what to do. I don't know if it was a panic attack. I don't know what it was. So this is now probably January and February in Wyoming. And I'm a wreck. I'm steering down the road, the defroster's going, and I did the only thing that you could do. I threw up into the defroster. And if you've ever had a car and you've thrown up into the defroster, it's the gift that keeps giving. It warms up and the aroma is loud. It's like, whoa, this is really good stuff. And anyway, I made it probably 20 miles. And I pulled off to a convenience store. And I go into the convenience store. And the cloned kid that works in the convenience store, he's got like 17 or 18 pimples and has no clue about anything. He couldn't add if he had to if the cash register wasn't there. He's working. And I walked in, and I'm sure I look great because I had blue all over me. And I did what an animal does when they're scared. I went over to the beer cooler, and I sat down by the beer cooler and went in the fetal position and sat right there. This pink-faced kid comes over and says, "Sir, are you okay?" I thought, how could I be okay? I'm about ready to puke into your cooler and I feel like shit. He said, "Can I call somebody?" So back in the day, this is going to be I said, "Yeah, it's in my back pocket." Let me grab it. So I reach in my back pocket and I pull out this phone number with 15 cents scotch tape to it. That's my sponsor's number. I said, "Call this guy." So he calls my sponsor. My sponsor calls 3 other guys. They jump in a car in Casper, Wyoming, and they drive out to where I am in this little mop squeezer place. And Phil walks in and he said, "You could be done." And I said, "I think so. I think I am." And he said, "Can you get up?" I said, "I don't think so." And he said, "Well, let's give it a hand." So a couple of the guys picked me up like a cage ball and dropped me into the back seat. I went over to Phil's house and drank coffee, threw up, and went down in Phil's basement where he does his step work. And we sat down there for a number of days until, number one, my head kind of cleared up. My willingness had increased because I was wounded badly. And we started going through the step work. And we got through the step work about, I'm going to say it was 12 days later that I stayed at his place. And I just felt so much different. Just felt so much different. And I don't know why, but the next meeting I went to was actually a pretty good meeting. You know? And then we went, of course, went to 3 meetings a day. And I just did that until I could function. I functioned again, and it was amazing. The spirituality part of the program had not kicked in, but the rest of it made perfect sense to me that, all these people I've screwed over, and all of these character defects that are flying all over the place, they need to be dealt with. Something needs to happen, right? And so that's what happened. I started doing that, and working on this recovery thing. And then I had this, at the end of the step work, Phil said, "Well, now you know what you need to do, right?" And I went, "Yeah," like I'm getting ready to lie. So I'm going, "Yeah, I know what I'm going to do." And Phil said, "We have to go find you a sponsee." I said, Great. Now, I want you to know that I did call New York, and I asked him after I finished with my sponsee, I said, "What's the shortest length of time that anyone's ever sponsored somebody?" They said, "Well, we don't know." I'm just lying this shit. So anyway, I went back to the same treatment center. I was in, and had this kid that was going to get out in 2 weeks, right? And I'm working with him, man. I am thumping it, got the tambourine going. I am ready to save this person's life. And he's ready, he's willing, he's jacked. He can't wait to get out and be of service and do all this stuff. So it comes the last day, and the little treatment center has the little program where they go, oh, here's footprints in his hand. And anyway, so this kid's getting ready to go out, and I'm hugging him and going, God, I can't wait till we can start going through the book and doing all that stuff outside of here. And you know, yeah, I'm really pumped. So the treatment center had a turn-in and leave, like a roundabout thing. So his wife pulls up in the car, and she reaches across, she's driving, she reaches across the middle seat, opens up his door, shoves his door open, says, get in the car. Okay, he jumps in the car, she goes, pops the beer, gives it to him, and drives away, and never saw him again. I called Phil. Phil, God, we didn't even make it out of the driveway. This is not a good thing. And Phil said, don't worry about it, don't be more like that. God, how bad could this be? Well, apparently pretty bad. So anyway, I started sponsoring guys, and just a message, because I saw there were some new people here and so forth. You know, this is 1987, and I started sponsoring people, and I have this template that I use to sponsor people, the same one that all you guys are familiar with, you know. And here's what I would tell you, that in the 34 plus years now that I've been sponsoring people, of the people that have done the program as suggested in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, done the program, gone to meetings, done service work, and so forth. Okay, this is pretty stunning. One person, one guy didn't make it. One guy. Now, a lot of people ask us to sponsor them, right? And then they say that so they can make sure they have. If somebody says, who's your sponsor? You're all like that. And I don't even know who it is. Oh, okay, great. Yeah. So, if you ever wonder if the program doesn't work, well, it does work. But it requires a change in these substitutes that we talked about earlier. You know, what are you going to substitute for all the booze? Right? What are you going to substitute for all the bad behaviors, character defects, blah, blah, blah? What are you going to do? Well, and that's where the answers come up. And that's why the whole thing is that, you know, trust God, you know, clean house and help others isn't just a bunch of catchy phrases. It actually works. It really does work. So, I'm going to tell you a little bit how the program has worked in my life, because I think it's important that we understand, at least I do, that because I was willing to do the stuff that I'm doing, God has placed me in positions to be of value. So my daughter, or my sister who lost the daughter, had 2 nephews. And he's a minister, she's a minister's wife, and they have 2 kids, and one of them's drinking all the time up in Minnesota. And my phone rings, and the minister says, well, I don't know what to do. Benjamin's drinking all the time. He's got 4 little kids and a wife, and a great job, and they're all going away. I said, okay. So what do we do? And I said, well, first thing I do is I'll make some calls up to Bemidji, Minnesota, and have somebody come and see him, and they'll do the other thing. And of course, they want to fix. My sister is a huge fixer. And they want to fix it. And I said, well, you can't fix it. What? I said, you can't fix it. Well, what are we supposed to do? The minister gets on the phone. We don't get it. We're really confused. What should we do? And I said, well, I'm going to tell you what I've learned in AA. When you get stuck like that, here's what we do. This guy was a master for 38 years. Here's what we do. He said, we pray. And there's a site that's on the phone. And he said, you know, I have to tell you, I never thought about it. He said, oh, there you go. There you go. So we got this kid into recovery, and he's sober today, has his family back, has his job back, is doing great. He's a wonderful person, and he's just doing really, really well. The other part that happened that I think it's important to note is that, you know, I jumped into this thing because I had no place else to go. And part of the amends process was going from, I had moved to Salt Lake, so driving from Salt Lake to Tucson, Arizona to visit with my kids. And it's 12 hours at least, something like that. And I drove once a month for the first year to visit with them, and out of 12 visits, I got, or 12 trips, I got 2 visits because they were pissed. But I just made up my mind and said, you know what? I don't blame them. So what ended up happening is I just kept going, kept doing that, and kept doing that, and kept doing that, and made time to go from here to there to go to some of their sports stuff, you know, and other things. And eventually they warmed up, and eventually we had began a relationship. And now, yeah, it's the truth, I swear. And now, I can tell you this, my daughter Jill's 31, and Jackie's 39, and we're buddies. We talk every week. And now, they have kids, which makes me a grandpa, and I'm a damn good grandpa. I just want you to know that at the outset. I'm a good grandpa. And the kids and I have had the conversation, and I just said, you know, I don't think that I could be any more grateful to Alcoholics Anonymous than I am. I just can't even begin to tell you the things the wonderful things that have happened to me in recovery, because I followed the instructions in the book, and I hang around people that have what I want, right? And it's just way cool, you know. About 4 years ago, I ran into this little 100-pound soul, and she wouldn't go out with me. Such a poor judge of character. And I kept after her, and I said, you know what? Let's not go on a date, let's go on an undate. Salesman. So we go to an AA speaker thing, and it was great. We had an undate, and the undate led to some more dates, which led in time for us to develop a relationship, unlike any relationship that I've ever had, because it's based in our spirituality. So we're walking down the trail, we're huge hikers, and we're walking down the trail in Mill Creek up her, it wasn't up her, it was just one of the trails. And beautiful day. And I turned to her and I said, Ann, would you marry me? And just for you romantics, yes, I was on one knee. And she said yes. And our souls wrapped around each other. And we realized at that moment what a relationship really was. And that it was based in spirit and not all the rest of the stuff that I always based a relationship on when they didn't work. But yeah, here we are. I love her to death, and she knows that. And we live right over in Murray, off of the river, and we have nothing to do with her in the house. The dogs are in the house. No problem, got it. And, it's just wild. It's wild the way God works in our life. And my best friends, a lot of my best friends are, in fact, I'd say, 90% of my best friends are in Alcoholics Anonymous. And we have fun. It's not dull, boring, and long. It's, okay, what are we doing next? What are we going to do? And then you learn how to be of service. Like I see a bunch of people here in Jordan and a bunch of people that they're in service. Ben does service. It's great. You know, an opportunity to give back that's been freely given to us. And Chris does a ton. God, I can't believe you're still here. I just tell this quick story. I'll tell this quick story. You know, I met Chris at a meeting, and then I didn't see him for a while, and I'm over at the Alano Club. And I see this apparition coming down the sidewalk. And I'm going, God, if the wind comes up, he's going to blow into the next car. You know, and his eyes are dead. Sorry if I blow. Yeah, you shaved it, so you don't know. So eyes are dead, and he's just, listen, how's it going? And then I love the answers we got. How's it going? Great, I'm fine. All good. Yep. Haven't pooped my pants for 2 days. I'm fine. All is well. So, and then I see him, he starts coming back. He starts coming back, and he's being of service. And I go, yeah. And there's a bunch of, you know, I told Brandon that when Brandon was getting sober, you know, I was watching that guys going, he's doing service work. Right on, man. There you go. You know? And now you have color and everything. Got a beautiful girl that you didn't have to pay for. It's all good, man. It's all good. All we're doing is just about, I'm not bored these people to tears yet. Yeah. Looks like we're just about done. So, anyway, I appreciate your patience this evening. And I just want to tell you this, you do have a choice. You do have a choice. Your life can be so good, so awesome, if you just follow the certain little things that we recommend and hang around people that have what you want. This is a hell of a deal. Get your life back. What a deal. I appreciate being asked. I wanted to thank the committee for their service, because I know that it's pretty involved in this group. And I would like to close it up just with this quick deal and just say, you know what? The absolute key to this is helping other people. Don't make it harder than that. You know, look for people to be of service to, and your life will get better, and so will theirs. Thanks a bunch. I appreciate it.